Kuzenpus. Likkertje poespoes. Ja. State of affairs in the world. I cannot help to think, since the start of this conflict, right after COVID, that it's all connected. That it is really all connected. And that the Russians and the Chinese are still working together with those globalists for that globalist agenda, but they play their part in this theater that's played in front of us on the world stage in a way that the real powers to be, namely the banking powers, those in the background, even in Russia and in China, that you never hear about, that those powers to be want to take everything from us in the West. That should be obvious to everyone. It was obvious to me at the first moment we started this economic so-called war with Russia. It's like cutting your own lifeline, huh? Nord Stream 2, and no questions asked. And all the sanctions that backfired against our economy, our well-being as citizens. In your daily life, everything becomes more expensive, etc. And then it hit me. The Corona period. China, the biggest supporter of the WHO, still. And China being an economic powerhouse, and China also holding the biggest debt of American bonds in the world, basically means that you own the USA. I mean, just look in your own life, you have a mortgage on the house, you have a big debt, so the bank owns you. Because you want to stay in that house, right? You're gonna pay, otherwise they take your house, they foreclose it, and you will be on the street. Likewise, the same of course, in slightly different form, but likewise with debt from America to China, and the Chinese dumping this debt, which means they devaluate the dollar, which means that the euro, connected to that fake money, the dollar, that means that the euro will fall as well. Now, connect the dots. The Great Reset, how you're gonna take everything from everyone away. It's very simple. It's very simple. You indebt them forever. Forever, ever, ever, ever. Just look at the Germans after World War I and World War II. World War I brought Germany on its knees, economically, territorially, and they were still paying to the so-called Allied forces war payments, indebted. Then you got Hitler, after that also indebted, and the Polish still want to have money from the Germans. No one, however, talks about German territory going back to Germany after World War II. The territories that were disputed, and one of the reasons for World War II Huh? Would it not have been fair? Because everyone knows that Germany was not guilty for World War One. So why were those territories taken? Huh? Occupied by others. If we had not done that, then World War II most likely would not have happened. Or maybe would have happened, but in a very, very different form. For very different so-called reasons. I keep saying it. Fascism didn't die after the Second World War. It went on steroids. It went on steroids, and it combined all those social projects, communism in the USSR, communism in China, communism in North Korea, communism across the former satellite states, Poland, Romania, etc., Hungary, all slightly different variations. And then of course the full-blown fascism part in Europe, Italy, Germany, Turkey. Social experimentation. Really, when you think about it, how to control us and how to cull the population while making profit of it, culling it to a more maintainable, sustainable level according to them. Fascism didn't die in Europe. Neither did communism. They just combined the whole shit into whatever worked from that part and this part and this part and this part. We all combine it in the next one. Now, think about the famous words of Mr. Kissinger. There will be a world government, whether you like it or not. The only question is if it will be by consent or conquest. Very true words, because when you think about it, everything is so connected in the world, our economies. Just think about it for a second. If you close a certain business, let's say in China, and 1 million people live from fabricating certain products, and you close that business, 1 million people might be on the street. Likewise, vice versa, etc. So yes, sanctioning goods is really a war against civilians when you think about it. They claim that it is to persuade you in overthrowing your government, but it's really a war against you, by blaming other parties for your misery, that you are on the street, your factory was closed, your income is taken and your child is hungry, but it's not my fault for taking that money and that food, it's the other guy's fault for not bowing down his head to me. So overthrow the other guy because it's his fault. That's basically the reasoning in a nutshell. Correct? Correct. And then they claim we have an influence on our leaders. If that is true, then you are also responsible for your leaders. So it's really you out there who is guilty for all this suffering, because according to our Western democratic civilization, you out there are the one in power who decides who lead Holland, for example. Huh? You, Dutch, are responsible for the suffering in the Ukraine. By default, if you follow the reasoning of democracy, you chose Macron, you French, so you are responsible for the suffering wherever the French cause suffering, be it in Mali, be it in Africa, anywhere. You Dutch, Germans, etc., you are guilty. Right? Because the Russians are also guilty for Putin's popularity. So, by default, the same truth applies to you out there, European, American, Australian, Canadian, Brit, and others. You are to blame. You believe in democracy, right? No? Only when it suits you? Well, fascism didn't die, like I said. And maybe I was wrong to call them Nazis, those leaders. I did in many of my videos. Maybe they are not National Socialists, because that's basically what Nazis were. National Socialists. I'm quite sure they are not National Socialists after all. Then they would have cared about their nation in a social way, not to starve you, to make it cold in your house because everything went up. The prices of wood, for example, here in Transylvania, Romania, where people depend on heating their houses with wood, that price doubled. That's for many people a disaster, I can tell you. I can tell you from, and I'm one of the lucky ones in regards of an income. It's not big, but I have a small pension. So, enough to sustain myself and the dog shelter. And then that's about it. But I don't care. I'm not complaining, but I think about the others around me. Yeah. When will you out there realize that you are either believing in a democracy, and then you should take it to the fullest, like a Maidan. Get rid of those who do not care about your nation, or they get rid of you. Have a nice day.